my loves, thank you so much for clicking on this video. A girl is back with the sit down videos. I have tried to do the prophetic words and I see the videos are not performing, and also I miss the sit down videos, so we are back to the sit down videos. I can't say for a long time because I know myself, desires change within me all the time, but I miss this guys. I miss having sit downs. I'm ready to go to church, but before we go to church, I'm like, you know what, let's film. I had planned out video. I wanted to film a Q&A about purpose, but the Holy Spirit has said instead, let me give a testimony of how I got this house. If you cannot tell already, we are in a new space. I really love this new house. I don't know if you can see the lighting, just guys, this is a blessing, and the Holy Spirit has said I should share this testimony, maybe to encourage someone, to lift up someone, for someone to keep on waiting on the Lord, holding on to God. I haven't planned it out, but whatever the Holy Spirit leads me to talk about and share within this testimony, so shall it be. Okay, so please make sure you give me a thumbs up first of all and subscribe down below. When I was moving, I actually filmed this series of moving on my TikTok, and I realized that so many people are trusting on God for moving, and it just made me realize how much of a blessing I have being able to move into your own space, to have your own space. And I've had my own space for a long time, only that it was a smaller house, and now we've moved to a bigger house. So I just want to encourage anyone who is still waiting on God on moving personal space. Guys, I know what it feels like to lack peace, to live with people who don't understand you, who just a personal space is very, very important, and that's why they say being single is a blessing. Okay, back in 21st November, God gave me a promise of a house. He was going to give me a new space, a new house where I will no longer be disturbed, where I'll have a peace of mind, where everything will just be fine. And that was in 21st November while I was having a Bible study on First Chronicles chapter 17. I actually read that and wrote it on my Bible study notebook. So I felt it so much in my spirit, and I was like, wow, God, really, you're gonna give me a new home? I did not understand it. I did not kind of believe it, but also I didn't doubt, because I really wanted to move to a better space, but I knew that I could not afford it. So I was like, God, how is it going to happen? And sometimes when God gives us promises, even the promises in the Bible, we think that it is from our own strength to figure the house, to figure the when, to figure how it will be done. But it's not your business. Your business is just to believe and say, yes, God. You say that, okay, Daddy, I trust you. So you know what, I've decided to pull out evidence, you guys. This was in 21st November. I don't know, my phone has a mirror effect, but right here I wrote house promise, and this was 21st November, First Chronicles 17. In the Bible, this is First Chronicles chapter 17. I actually circled this place. I circled a home of their own. That was First Chronicles chapter 17 verses 9. And I will provide a place for my people Israel, and will plant them so that they can have a home of their own and no longer be disturbed. So I circled that, a home of their own, because I felt it in my spirit that God was speaking to me, that He was gonna give me my new home, a place that I will not be disturbed. A few days passed. I was quite comfortable in that previous place. Please go on my TikTok. I have pinned the moving series video part 1 and part 2, but I have up to, I think, part 5 of this series of moving by faith. So go on my TikTok and watch. You will see that video of how the previous house was looking like. I actually posted the part 1 on shorts, but I was so comfortable because I'm one person who I'm very content with the place where I am in. Yes, I desire more, but I'm quite content in where I am, because I'm like, so if you want a big space and you cannot afford it and you cannot sustain it, so why not just be content with where you are? So all my life, I've learned how to be content with the small things where I am. I feel like in my journey with God is when God is teaching me how to desire big things. Like He's teaching me how to trust that He can take me to bigger places and a new level. November, I was comfortable. December, I was comfortable. When it came to January, there are people who moved in. So I live in an area where there are universities, and the houses here, most of them are occupied by students. So the students came back to school in January. So I had new neighbors who moved in, and the neighbors smoke like, yo. And this was someone I actually know. We once lived in the same plots before the first time I moved out from home. And I knew that living with them is not cute, because 1, they are very noisy, 2, they smoke every single morning. So I knew that it could not be nice. So when he called me to ask if there was a house, I refused. I said, we do not have houses in where I live, but there were houses. It's just because I didn't want him to move in, because I I knew disaster was coming. I knew my peace of mind that I had, the silence, the fresh air was no longer going to be there. But that night I had a dream that he was gonna move into that place. Like I saw the curtain and his shoes like outside, and he actually moved in the next day, and I was so disturbed. My spirit was just disturbed. I was like, God, how am I going to survive it? And the problem is there were other houses, and he just moved next to where my house was. So that meant that if he opens his door, the stench that comes out of his house, because smoke, that is what it is, was going to fill up in my house. So from staying in a compound where I was comfortable opening the door and just fresh air coming in, now I had to be closing the door all the time. I had to find ways on how I would leave the compound because smoke, and anytime I smell smoke, I have a headache, I have stomach upset. So it was quite uncomfortable. But I knew in my spirit that God was going to take me out of this place because I was too comfortable in that place. Guess what? I had to start praying, like, God, how am I going to survive? Give me tips of surviving. I tried talking to the landlord of that place to talk to him to stop smoking from the compound. He even moved to the next house, but still I was waking up every morning looking sad because I just knew the moment I step outside that door, I'm having a headache and stomach upset because of the stench of the smoke. Yeah, it was quite uncomfortable. So that I knew God is forcing me out of this place. And I know every places I have moved to, God has forced me out of those places. The first place where I'm saying that we lived with that same guy in the same compound, God forced me out of that place by God flooding that house. Like that house was, guys, nimetoka mbali. That house was like they wanted to build a flat, but they didn't finish the flat, so it was leaking from the ceiling. And because I couldn't afford any better place, I just stayed there. Also because I didn't have a bed, that place offered a bed. God has blessed us with a bed, by the way. That is another testimony. So I stayed in that place because I felt like I just have to stay here because I have no other place. God flooded that house one day. I came back to the house was flooded. I knew God was forcing me out to move, and he provided a way out. Let me tell you, when you're living in a place where there are university students, getting houses in the middle of the semester is quite difficult. You have to wait until people go to holidays. So in the middle of a semester, someone moved out of a house, and a friend called me and said there is a house here. I moved to that place. It was beautiful. I loved it. But then again, I just couldn't trust God in paying the rent of that house. So I moved back to the same price of that house, but a different place, which is the place I moved from to come here. I hope you guys can understand. I didn't wait on God. Just learn how to be still, guys. Just learn how to be still and God to provide. But I moved out of my worry. A girl can worry. So rent is one of the things that worries me so much. So I moved out of that place and moved to a cheaper house again, same price with the first place, and that is the place where I was living in. And now God was forcing me out of that place using this somebody who is a smoke addict. So you see, in January I had to start looking for houses. Like I was frustrated. I was like, I cannot live like this forever. How can I live in a place where I'm a passive smoker like every single day? So I had to start looking for houses. Everywhere I was going, I couldn't find any houses. So one day, on a Sunday, I was giving up in looking for houses because I came from church. I looked places, either they were full or they were dark. I wanted a house that had natural lighting because I am a content creator, okay? So when I was giving up that Sunday, something told me, which of course we know is the Holy Spirit, just follow this route. I had followed that route before, but not until the end. Like going down, like just continue walking and walking. As I was continuing walking and walking, it was during sunset time, so I was just like, you know what, I'm enjoying these sunset vibes. And I kept walking. Then I got to a place, I saw a child, and the Holy Spirit told me, ask that boy, are there houses in this place? I asked the boy, are there houses here? So he showed me this compound. There's a blue gate. So I walked in the compound. It was quite silent and quiet, just the way I like it, you know what I'm saying? But it was very dark. I couldn't see this lighting of the house, but my spirit was at peace with the house. I peeped through the window of the house and I was like, this house looks expensive. How am I going to afford it? And I wanted to walk away. The Holy Spirit interjected again and said, you know what, go and ask for the price. So I went to the next compound, which is just directly opposite my door, to the compound of the landlady. I found her and I said, I'm interested to know the house. When I asked for the price, it was a little bit, of course, expensive than the previous place that I was in, but it surprised me. I thought it was even more expensive than the price they gave. So yeah, I checked the house and it was dark again. The floors were very ugly, but my spirit agreed. So when I told the lady I'm gonna move in, they worked on the floor and they were supposed to paint, but I moved in quicker, so they didn't paint. But yeah, that's how I got this place. it just shows how when you are giving up, that's when God came through. Because when I was giving up with the house hunting, that's when God directed me to this place. And the good thing is that the compound I'm in, the landlord is my pastor in church, but we don't know each other that personally, and their sons are my friends. So I have community of friends, a Christian community. And when you're going through something, you have someone who's saying hi to you. Guys, I have no friends, so it feels nice to have people to talk to, even if it's once in a while, people to care for you. Because the previous days, I'm going back to church for the first time in almost a month. I couldn't finish the month because of just how God spoke through this one of the sons who is my friend, just to push me to leave this isolation period that I had put myself into. Now I'm going to church today. See, I was planning to go back to March next month, but God is like, you know what, you're going to church, and I obeyed. I've just seen how God cares for his people. So if you are waiting on God for a house, listen, I'm even telling this testimony because I've been worrying. The past few days I've been worrying, God, am I going to make it to the rent? It's not like I have a stable source of income. I hawk groundnuts and coffee, like that's what I'm doing. And one of my biggest prayer, in fact the only prayer I have this year, is that God will give me a better source of income. Not necessarily a job, because I don't see myself employed, but it doesn't mean if I get a good opportunity I will refuse. I will take it, but I'm just asking God to open my mind on how I can create sources of income for myself, because I foresee myself being a work from home kind of mom. Okay, we are working on our future self. I'm trusting God to pave way, just open my eyes and my mind so that I can see sources of income that I can create for myself. And I'm filming this video, it's quite full circle, because I've been worried about rent. I'm like, God, the rent is coming. Let me tell you, when it hits the middle of the month, 15th of every month, I start worrying about rent. I'm like, oh my God, I save up every single day, coin by coin. How is it going to fill up? But I'm just doing this testimony to also tell myself and actually tell God that I trust you, that you will provide for this rent, that I'm not going to worry about it, because you are my provider. You brought me to this place, therefore you will sustain me. That is Deuteronomy 11. God once gave me that verse when I was living back then in the village, and I was worrying about how I'll be able to sustain things that God gives me. But if God gives you something, Deuteronomy 11 verses 12, it is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning to the end of the year. So if God gives you something, he is the one that is going to sustain it. It is not me that will sustain it. So I have to keep reminding myself that, God, I trust that you'll provide for the rent of this house every month. So if you're trusting God for moving, I don't know what lessons you've gotten from this story if you've watched to this end. I don't know. But I'll just say, trust God. I know what it's like to be in a place where your mental health is affected. I have been there. When I wanted to move from my village, my mental health was not okay. I'm just never okay around family. I don't know. So now that I have this peace of mind, my own space, the natural lighting, this house is beautiful. I see myself living here long term. And yeah, as long as God provides, I'm trusting God for furniture, because this house is quite empty. This is supposed to be the living room place, and then this side is supposed to be the bedroom, but I've put the bed here because I don't want this space to be empty. So I'm trusting God for furniture. You know, just keep trusting God. I don't know what lesson you can get. I keep saying that you can get from this story, but I hope someone is lifted up to know that God will guide the steps of the righteous. God guides the steps of the righteous, and when it's time, the time is right, he will make it happen so swiftly. And God makes things beautiful at his own time. Ecclesiastes chapter what? 3 verses 11. God makes things beautiful at his own time. Just trust God, wait on him. Micah 7:7 says, for me, I will wait on the Lord, I will hope on the Lord. So have that strength in God. I'm saying that I have nobody else I'm waiting on, it's just God. Cry to God, pray to him. A season will come when you'll have your own personal space. So me, I'm happy with this personal space. So yeah, so I'm gonna take some pictures and go to church, because I don't want to be late after how long of going back to church, you know. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has encouraged somebody who's trusting on God for moving, okay? And bye. Just trust God, yo. Trust God.